talking, I was trying to decide where to go next, because we're talking about spirituality, we're talking about energy, we're talking about all these things. And there's a great video, as we both know, regarding this polar bear. And but I feel like before I show that, I want to show a couple minutes of like what truly the fascia looks like, you know, in real life. So Dr. Guimberteau, I'm probably saying it wrong because I get my words all weird.
Jean-Claude Guimberteau. He is, so just as a real quick, and you can find this stuff, it's excellent because just the artistry of it alone. I have his textbook, and just the pictures you can literally blow up and put on your wall. I mean, Bonnie has one in her treatment office of fascia just blown up because it's just beautiful to see. But this is what we're talking about, because he's a French hand surgeon that began to realize that his training and what he's supposed to know about the body wasn't mixing with what he was seeing every time he cut into somebody. So, as great scientists do, real scientists, not just technicians, but real visionaries, he said, let me get a little camera, a little endoscopic camera, and he started to film, with their permission, of course, fascia in a live person. Now, most of this is going to be, you're going to see where it's, because he was doing a lot of things with the tendons and work through the forearms, because he's a hand and wrist surgeon, right? But you'll see what I'm talking about with that lattice work, okay? And as you see this, you're going to see what look like spaces. Those are not empty spaces. That is the ground substance that we're talking about, right? That is what can start to solidify. So imagine as you watch this, what would happen if that area that was all glistening and dewdrops and all of this, all of a sudden we poured glue into it. And then think about how your wrist is going to move when that happens. But take a look.
Or cut into it with scar tissue, you know.
And I think this is an excerpt from his one of his first films. It was called Strolling Under the Skin.
It is. It is.
Yeah,
so anybody wants to see the full, I think it's like a 20, 30 minute, maybe.
Yeah, he has the DVDs for sale. You can check out. You can get his book too. It's the Architecture of Human Fascia. It's a beautiful book. I mean, it is a textbook, but still, take a look.
Things that reinforce the solidity like an articulated bamboo stem, transparent sails, dewdrops.
They can still hear me, yes?
Travel along these pearly structures, and you notice the same fractal arrangement everywhere. Large fibrils endlessly punctuated by other smaller ones. The tissue continuum is total. The marriage homogeneous.
Right there.
The arrangement completely fractal.
You see those spaces. They are not spaces.
The human body would seem to be one and the same tissue that has differentiated over time.
There, one and the same tissue that is differentiated over time.
Framework supporting life must have its inherent.
It means it's all the same thing. But look at that. It's just that.
How are these structures organized? How do they resolve and move? And
what you are seeing here is literally what we were talking about. You're seeing that now. This is at a microscopic level. Okay, what we call endoscopic. So this is very, 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 very close. So if you opened it up, it would not look exactly like this. This is very close up, right? So again, when you open up the steak or the chicken and you pull the pieces apart, that's what you're seeing. And if you went down with a microscope, you would see this. But it is that lattice work. And it is not a lattice work like you have in your fencing. It is not linear, okay? It is not straight lines. John will always put up a picture of it's like a beautiful scenic park with a lake and trees and all of this beautiful stuff, and he'll say, do you see any straight lines? He goes, oh, there's one, and he points out a little park bench, you know, because we made that. And linear lines are great. Look right there. That is not linear. That is what they're calling that fractal nature. And fractals means it's like if you looked at a leaf, right? If you look, you take the leaf all the way down to its smallest patterns. Those patterns repeat larger and larger and larger. And you see that throughout nature, right? The same thing with us too. But those fibrils that you see are literally interchanging. Unfortunately, we couldn't see, I don't know if it's even in this section of the video, but as the person moves, those fibrils shift and they'll move, and this one will come over here, and this, constantly adapting to whatever pressures are placed on it. And think about how many things you do in a day. Your entire body is doing that, is shifting, changing. And now, if we pour glue in that, what's happening?
I remember in one of the videos, and can you see my mouse moving?
Yep.
Okay. So I remember, you know, seeing these videos quite often. But this particular section here is one of the ones that should be gliding very effortlessly. And I remember on the ones that have a little bit more substance in the corners of them, they're the ones that tend to are stretching until they finally break apart, when it should just be an easy glide across all these tension tendrils. So
it can, yeah. And again, this stuff is all very, very new. I mean, Guimberteau didn't really start a lot of this until early 2000s, and just recently released the textbook and things like that. So this is still very new. They're still trying to understand some of the physics and all of that behind it. But one of the best stories I have, which I don't think he would have a problem with sharing because he said it before, but John had envisioned what he was feeling under his hands, you know, and he started doing this stuff in the 70s and early 80s and began teaching. So he's been doing it a long, long time. And what he was feeling under his hands, he says, when he finally saw this video come through, he just sat there and he said tears started to come because he said, that's what I saw. That's what I saw. He saw it in his mind's eye because of what he was feeling, you know, and he went with that. And from that has now blossomed into this thing. And thankfully is getting his just desserts now, because he was the one that was out there taking a real licking, saying these things and getting a lot of heat for it because it went against the grain. And that's the new science for you. Yeah. We talked about MRIs before, same thing. I don't know if you guys know, but the physician that developed the idea about MRIs and how they would work was almost laughed out of medicine. So there you go.
Yeah, everything is, you know, controversial until it's not, you know.
Exactly.